Was good. Just getting off of work. Gonna play a couple videos.
You don't want to accumulate
Go.
that.
Let's go.
Right, so one of the things that I've noticed about this realm or this prison planet is that it's because there is a lot of talk about the lot of like the law of karma, and like you don't want to accumulate bad karma. Like if you're a good person.
Now, me personally, I don't believe in karma at all. At all. Here is why. Personal experience. Like I said, I've been through the wildest hell all my life and prayed and got no fucking answer. Where was karma at? Why didn't karma get my mom to get into the right motherfucking frame of mind? What was going on? You know what I'm saying? When does karma activate? Like what age do the karma activate in the human? You know what I'm saying? But fuck the bullshit. I've been through hell all my fucking life. And when I finally let the Jesus shit go, I realized I gotta do me. But I'm naturally a cool, down to earth person. So as long as I don't burn no bridges, you know, and just be honest and be loyal, reliable, and responsible, rather to family or friends, then I'm cool. When it's time to let people go, you let them go. Yeah, it's gonna hurt, but you gotta just deal with it and keep it rolling. But me personally, I don't believe in karma. But then I later on, then I found out I don't believe in karma because I am the karma. No one thinks about that part. I am the karma that a person called it. Let's just say get shit done. You feel me? So like that. That's why I don't fuck with karma because I am karma. You know, it's the destruction or the gift. You feel me? And you could bring divine judgment or you could bring a divine lecture or divine guidance. However it go. After all the shit I've been through all my fucking life, there was no karma any fucking where. Until I got older and I realized I was karma. If karma exists, you feel me? Because all these belief systems, all these possible traps to like trap your mind into thinking that you're less than you got to pay off some debt. No, you are a phenomenal cosmic being. You are infinite consciousness, infinite awareness driving a vehicle known as the human body. Fuck a karma. But let's hear what this guy got to say. I forgot what this cat name is. Schizo Dumps.
Good things will happen to you if you're a bad person. It's all because there is a lot of talk about the lot of like the law of karma, and like you don't want to accumulate bad karma. Like if you're a good person, good things will happen to you. If you're a bad person, bad things will happen to you. But it seems like this is the way the program is designed on this prison planet, is that karma seems to work in reverse, right? And you know, yet again, like a karma is fake and gay. It is designed to, lock you in a cycle of reincarnation, trying to pay off karmic debt, right? Even though the world's run by pedos, karma's totally real, right, guys?
Right.
But the thing about like the law of karma is that it might be like a real law inside the simulation, but it might, because of the inversion that happens on this planet, because of the fact that bad people tend to get ahead, evil people tend to win. Maybe karma actually works in like a reverse kind of a way, which is interesting to me because that does seem to be, the thing. Yet again, if you look at like the people who are successful, the people who run things, so to speak, the people who get good luck or whatever, it does seem to be of the opposite of like what you see in the movies, where like the good guy wins for being good and going through all the trials and tribulations, and like the bad guy gets punished and he loses everything at the end. But that doesn't seem. And one of the most obvious examples of this is Jimmy Savile. He's this guy who's I, I think he was like an actor or something, or some famous guy who went around the UK, molesting kids while he was doing his, like, or whatever it is he was. Like, I don't know if he like worked for the BBC or if he was like a journalist or like a TV show host or whatever, or like a comedian or something. He was like an entertainer of sorts, but he went around, the UK molesting children, and he ended up dying of old age. Right, and he ended up like dying of old age, and like this whole idea of like, oh, like, well, karma will get to him. Like that's not karma. Like a guy molesting kids his entire life and him dying of old age, and then people finding out after, or people finding out way too late that like, oh man, he actually did this, that, and the other. So like, bad thing, right? That I feel like that happens a lot more than people will admit. I feel like that happens a lot more than people realize. And another thing that I'll say is like the more you go out of your way to help people, it does seem to be like that. That does seem to open up the gateway for parasitic behavior to enter, right? But because, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do good things. You should do good things, if it's not like to the point where like to the point, because like you have people who are too nice. You have people who are like they're good people, but like they're doing it at the expense of themselves, or they're doing it at like they're sacrificing their entire life. They're messing up their entire life to help someone, to like help a complete stranger or whatever. And I'm saying like you should be a nice person, but be reasonable about it, right? Yeah, and you shouldn't be nice just for the sake of a reward, right? You shouldn't be like, a good person for the sake of gives, or like a reward of some sort. But at the same time, it does seem to be like the more you go out of your way to assist people, it does seem to be like the system punishes good behavior, and it rewards evil behavior, because I feel like that is an element of the Loosh farm. Right? If you look at like the harvesting of negative energy that goes on in this planet, the harvesting of the Loosh, right? The Loosh, as it's called, right? That happens on this planet. That does seem to be like a feature of this. Is like, why does karma work in reverse on this planet? You get karma as like a computer program. It's a matrix program. It's not like, oh well, you stepped on a bug when you were 8, so now you got to reincarnate 10,000 more lifetimes, right? That's obviously like this whole idea of having to pay back karmic debt is faking gay. It's used to get you trapped into this cycle, right? But one of the things about like the law of karma as like a computer program is that it does seem to be designed to like generate loosh, because if you reward metaphysically through the simulation or whatever, if you reward evil behavior and if you punish good behavior, then that generates more loosh. It generates more like shaking the rat cage. And so I do think that may be a reason why karma does seem to work in reverse, right? I'm not saying that it happens. I'm not saying that happens like all the time. So sometimes good people do get a reward. Sometimes bad people do get what they deserve. Justice does happen, but it doesn't seem to happen often enough. It doesn't seem to be that, especially if you look at the people who run the world, if you look at the types of people that run the world, the people who own the private islands, and the people who have a proclivity for the young, if you know what I mean. Like those are the people who are running things, and it does seem to be that this computer program, this matrix, will reward evil behavior because it generates more negative energy, right? And yet again, and so it does seem to be like almost like the natural behavior pattern, of people, is because of the fact that evil is rewarded and good is punished, right? People are going to tend towards evil sociopathic behavior, right? And yet again, if it rewards evil behavior, then the evil people tend to get on the top. Like it's like a reverse of what the hierarchy should be. Where instead of good people having billions of dollars, instead of good people having access to resources, instead of good people having access to everything they could ever need, right? It does seem to like work in reverse, where all the evil people have more than they'll ever need, but all the good people are constantly struggling. It seems to be, and yet again, there are exceptions to the rule here, but it does seem to be that reward system, that system of reinforcements for the mind. It does seem to be designed to support the bottom line. Yet again, that's something that I talk about in a lot of my videos, is that the bottom line of this realm, it's like the bottom line of a corporation. The bottom line of a corporation is to generate revenue, to generate money. And so any scummy thing that they'll do to generate money, that's the bottom line. That's the reason why companies exist, right? In the same way that this prison planet, this Loosh farm, right, it exists to generate negative energy. So everything that about this place, like the way that it's designed, the way that it's set up, is specifically designed to generate loosh. And so I do believe like this whole like reverse law of karma is another feature of that, where it's like, yet again, like evil behavior creates loosh. It generates suffering. It generates like the feeling of betrayal, the feeling of you're being oppressed by a tyrant and all this other stuff, right? All of the stuff that evil behavior generates is loosh, right? And so obviously a loosh farm would metaphysically, through some law of karma as like a background program, it would reward evil behavior because that is loosh generating behavior. And another thing that I've noticed when it comes to like the whole like law of karma stuff is that like the more you isolate yourself from the outside world, and this might be why monks go into monasteries, and this might be like why a lot of people who are more spiritually in tune, more awakened, so to speak, are introverts. People who want to isolate from the outside world, people who don't interact with people, right? Because it does seem to be that like the less you interact with this realm, the the less sort of like the less I don't want to say like like the less karma you accumulate, because yet again karma is fake and yay. It's a part of the community. It's a system of reinforcements in this computer program, but it does seem to me like the less you interact with the world, the less bad shit happens to you. Right? It's almost like
What
Chinese
up, though,
handcuffs,
Ark?
or where it's like if you stop doing stuff and you slowly move it out, then you
His name is Schizo Dumps. That's his name. His name is Schizo Dumps. Yeah.
get out of the Chinese handcuffs. Right? But if you try to like the more you like struggle, the more you sort of act, the more you interact with the outside world, like the more negative energy comes your way, like the more and the traditional definition of karma is actually causality. Like that's the closest sort of definition for like what karma traditionally means, is that it means cause and effect. It reminds me of the Merovingian from the Matrix films, right? He talks about cause and effect, right? And that is what the traditional definition of the law of karma is. And so it is almost like there is like that spiritual inclination to isolate from the outside world, right? To not interact with or to not interact with people outside of maybe your close family or whatever, to not talk to people, to not interact with people as much as possible. That does seem to be like almost like a defense against the reverse karma in this realm, because yet again, the less you interact with the world, the less shit comes back to you, because you're not giving your energy, your time, your effort, your psychic energy, your focus, your attention. You're not giving it to the outside world, and so you're not putting stuff in there that comes back to you to affect you negatively because of the reversed, distorted, fake law of karma that exists here. And so I do think that like that might be a reason of why there is like this instinct to isolate oneself from the outside world. Like that, a lot of yet again, like a lot of like awakened people tend to have that impulse. A lot of people who are aware of the true nature of things, they tend to have that impulse of isolation, because like they're cutting off, they're cutting themselves off from a negative cycle. And this is the same thing when it comes to like current events, right? I don't really interact with current events. I don't really care about whatever big media story, like whatever big media story, whatever big political puppet show is going on, in the news.
Yeah. Yeah, like I liked his view on it too. But like like me personally, like after going through all the shit I've been through all my life, I kind of said it like before I hit this video. I was like, I've been through so much fucking bullshit all my life. I'm like my majority of my fucking life. And I'm like, karma ain't stepped in to stop anything. So I was like, nigga, fuck karma. Karma doesn't exist. And then I got older, got to spirituality. Then I'm like, if karma exists, then I have to be the karma, because implementing divine judgment or a divine guidance, just to, you know, just to do what I need to do to take out the evil on this motherfucking planet. Because if karma does exist, the evil people deserve the karma that's coming to them. And I preach revolution all day, and I call it righteous vengeance and divine judgment. But a person that believes in karma will call it karma, because the evil got to get that karma. But like the way he was talking, Schizo was like, you're like, karma in this realm is on some reverse shit, because evil people get the fucking shine and flourish, while good people get fucked over and die, sometimes early, so it's like in this realm, he was saying that like the whole karma system is reversed. So like it'll either make you still probably believe in karma a little bit, or it'll make you be like, man, fuck karma, or it'll make you be like, I'm karma. But what he was also saying is karma is a trick to keep you in the reincarnation cycle because the motherfucker be like, oh my God, I gotta pay off my karmic debt. And you don't even remember what the fuck you did. So I think like just break free from all these systems or at least understand the karmic system because in his conclusion he came to causality. Salute low key, what up though? Just getting off of work. So it's like if you believe in it, chances are you might get stuck and come back in the reincarnation cycle. But I'm still 60-40 on that shit, you know. But like when it comes to karma, I don't believe in it at all. But later on, when I studied it, I was like, okay, if it's real, I have to be the karma to destroy the government because they got to get what's coming to them. They got to get it. They got to get it. It's burning in my fucking spirit. Like these motherfuckers got to pay for what they done. And going back to what Schizo said, it's like karma, like originally it was causality. If the original karma was causality, going back to the Merovingian, for every action, there's a motherfucking reaction. You know what I'm saying? The government fucked us over, elites fucked us over. It's time for us to react, and like the reaction is gonna be greater. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna really think we savages in this motherfucker. You know?
Like you gotta get like the news cycle, right? Like the reincarnation cycle, the cycle of karma, right? The Ouroboros. You see the symbolism there, right? You gotta get like so it's like the less you interact with like stuff like current events, like the less you interact with people in the outside world, the less you involve yourself in it. It's almost like you're protecting your energy. It's almost like you're a water balloon, right? And you're like the more
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Like to avoid any type of, let's just say, drama or bullshit, don't talk to any fucking body. That makes a lot of fucking sense. But, but you will be closing yourself off to good people. So this is why you get in tune with self and you connect with people that vibe with your frequency. You know, to avoid any bullshit or any karma or whatever. You know, or avoid any um entities trying to attach to you. Or like however the game go. You protect yourself and not engaging. And and to say like if you believe in karma, like to build up karma is to just keep on doing good shit, keep on being righteous. You know what I'm saying? Like that builds up your, I guess, your good karma or whatever. And if you do reincarnate, you might reincarnate as a rich, wealthy prince or something. Who knows? But that's only if you fuck with it. That's only if you believe it. You know. But
you interact with the outside world, the more people you interact with, the more like even like eating like bad food or taking drugs or like interacting with substances or like getting into relationships with like random people or you're just talking to people and wasting your energy with people who don't necessarily serve. And I'm not saying that you should be friends with people for the sake of an outcome, but I am saying that it is important to to make sure that to make sure that like, whoever you're interacting with is like not dragging you down, right? But it does seem to be like the more people I interact with, whenever I look back on my life, right? Like the more the more people I interact with, the more I talk with people, the more involved I am in the outside world. It does seem to be like it's like my energy, like my battery is drained the more I interact with the outside world, and that does seem to be yet again like the battery being drained, yet again like us being sort of like the power source of this matrix, right? So that is like another thing on top of like this whole idea of like karma being working in reverse. Is that yet again like isolation does seem to be like a protection from the fake law of karma that exists in this realm. But yeah, this video.
yep, that was Schizo Dumps. I think I probably got a couple more. But yeah, I'm on the same shit. It's just like See it from a bunch of perspectives and find your balance. Like I try to grab my truth, try to apply it to my life and keep it rolling. You know what it is. Yup, yup. I thought I saw low key. Salute low key. All right. Gotta go holler at my boy Friedrich.
Work on the genealogy of morality, Nietzsche wrote, "What if a regressive trait lurked in the good man, likewise a danger, an enticement, a poison, a narcotic, so that the present lived at the expense of the future, perhaps in more comfort and less danger, but also in a smaller minded, meaner manner, so that morality itself were to blame if man never attained the highest power and splendor possible for the type man, so that morality itself was the danger of dangers." Most people do not question why things are considered morally good or evil; rather, uncritically and largely unconsciously, they adopt the value judgments of good and evil dominant within their society. For the past 2,000 years, the dominant morality in the West, according to Nietzsche, has been an anti natural morality, which, in his words, turns against the instincts of life. Nietzsche foresaw this morality as reigning over the Western world for the foreseeable future, and was to him the danger of dangers, a morality in which all individuals, even those with the potential to rise above the mediocre mass, are pressured into becoming a smaller, almost ridiculous type, a herd animal, something eager to please, sickly and mediocre. Why has an anti natural morality, a poison which has spread through the entire body of mankind, gained dominion over Western civilization? To answer this question, Nietzsche's categorization of individuals into two distinct types, the higher human beings and those who belong to the herd, must be examined. Within the category of the higher human beings, there are two main types. There are creative geniuses, the men of great creativity, the really great men, according to my understanding, who, through a rare combination of nature and nurture, are able to devote their life to a craft and bestow upon the world astounding works of beauty. Along with creative geniuses, there are the more numerous higher humans who do not scale the heights of genius, and thus hidden from the public eye, their lives are without songs and singers. Yet the lives of these higher humans are not qualitatively different from the life of the creative genius. Both share similar character traits which separate them from the herd. Higher humans have a unifying life project and are consumed by the drive to actualize their lofty goals. This unifying project is not undertaken for short term gratification, but as a result of the higher man's vast historical perspective, is a form of work performed under the eye of centuries, a goal whose effects will remain long after the physical death of the higher man. As Nietzsche wrote in Human All Too Human, the modern individual focuses too narrowly on his own short lifespan, and wants to pluck the fruit himself from the tree he plants, and so no longer likes to plant those trees that demand a century of constant tending and are intended to provide shade for long successions of generations. For this type of lofty work, the higher man requires his solitude and freedom from the herd, the innumerable small and pitiable men. As Nietzsche wrote, the concept of greatness entails being noble, wanting to be by oneself, being able to be different, standing alone and having to live independently. Standing alone and living independently, the higher man remains oblivious to the petty concerns which occupy the herd, and is immune to both the praise and criticism emanating from the mouths of the many. There is a solitude within him that is inaccessible to praise or blame, his own justice that is beyond appeal. Aware of the momentous task which lies before him and the potential for greatness which lies within him, the higher man feels a sense of reverence towards himself, and even in the presence of great suffering, affirms life as a proud and well turned out human being who says yes, who is sure of the future, who guarantees the future. In contrast to these higher humans, there exist the many, the herd. The herd is composed of two types, the last man and the slave. The last man is the quintessential mediocre man, striving solely for comfort and contentment, an end which makes him lazy and contemptible. The last man is wholly devoid of any creative urge within, and blind to higher values which render creativity possible. The slave, in contrast, is a weak and sickly human being, who suffers from himself and is filled with what Nietzsche called ressentiment, a festering hatred of life generated by feelings of impotence in the face of an external reality he feels to be overpowering and threatening. There is among men, wrote Nietzsche, as in every other animal species, an excess of failures, of the sick, degenerating, infirm, who suffer necessarily. The successful cases are, among men, too, always the exception. The presence of ressentiment conjures feelings of envy within the slave towards all those who do not suffer as they do, namely, the higher human beings. This envy motivates the slave to take vengeance on the higher humans, banding together to obtain a communal feeling of power, the only type of power available to the slave, and under the pretext of calls for equality, the slave attempts to bring down to a more mediocre level all those higher than him through the construction of a slave or herd morality. The morality that would unself man is the morality of decline par excellence, the fact, I am declining, transposed into the imperative, all of you ought to decline. This only morality that has been taught so far, that of unselfing, reveals a will to the end. Fundamentally, it negates life. A herd morality inverts the natural values of life. The individual who is strong and independent, who attains feelings of power spontaneously through their creative endeavors and great health, is deemed by herd morality to be evil. On the other hand, all those who belong to the herd, the mediocre last men and the weak and impotent slaves, the vengeful disguised as judges, are deemed to be good. As Nietzsche put it in Ecce Homo. Finally, this is what is most terrible of all. The concept of the good man signifies that one sides with all that is weak, sick, failure, suffering of itself. The principle of selection is crossed. An ideal is fabricated from the contradiction against the proud and well-turned-out human being who says yes, who is sure of the future, who guarantees the future. And he is now called evil. And all this was believed.
Hamish Abernathy.
Called evil. And all this was believed as morality. Herd morality is the danger of dangers because of its ability to seduce those anxious and fearful in the face of the uncertainty and isolation associated with striving for greatness. In the confusion of their development, longing to rest from themselves for once so as to be free from what oppresses them, herd morality acts as a siren's voice, which offers the potential higher man a way to escape from his burdensome fate, into the comfort of mediocrity and immersion in the mass. If herd morality becomes too effective in bringing down all that is higher and extraordinary, nihilism will creep over the world. Without the higher values embodied by the higher men, creativity, works of astounding beauty, and the capacity to strive for ideals will be absent. Instead, the values of comfort and contentment, so cherished by the herd, will be worshipped as the supreme values, and as a result the herd will engulf all of mankind, and existence will be deprived of its great character. Nietzsche's fears of such a world were expounded in a passage from On the Genealogy of Morality. We can see nothing today that wants to grow greater. We suspect that things will continue to go down, to become thinner, more good-natured, more prudent, more comfortable, more mediocre, more indifferent. Here precisely is what has become a fatality. Together with the fear of man, we have also lost our love of him, our reverence for him, our hopes for him, even the will to him. The sight of man now makes us weary. What is nihilism today, if it is not that? We are weary of man. In the attempt to prevent future generations from succumbing to this all-engulfing leveling effect, Nietzsche spent much time in his writings performing a revaluation of values, hoping to lessen the effect of herd morality on the development of higher men. Such a revaluation of values is dependent upon the realization that herd morality is not an objective and universal morality binding on all, but is merely one type of human morality beside which, before which, and after which many other types, above all higher moralities, are or ought to be possible. While herd morality says stubbornly, I am morality itself, and nothing besides is morality, the higher individual must realize that the ideas of the herd should rule in the herd, but not reach out beyond it. He must pay no attention to herd morality's claims of universality, its values and moral oughts, but instead must discover his own higher values to assist him in accomplishing his unifying life project. In discovering his own higher values, the higher man must realize that as a highly differentiated individual with a unique vision of life, his good is his alone, and therefore he must not preach or impose his higher morality on others, as Zarathustra advised. My brother, if you have a virtue and she is your virtue, then you have her in common with nobody. Even naming one's virtue would make her too common. If one must speak of her, it should be, this is my good, this I love, it pleases me wholly, thus alone do I will the good. I do not will it the law of a god, I do not will it as human statute and need. In Nietzsche's time, as in ours, there exists a plethora of individuals who desire to persecute and bring down those who rise above the mediocre mass, masking their envy with calls for equality. These ideas will therefore seem elitist and distasteful to the great majority of people. But for Nietzsche, these ideas were not meant for the many. Our highest insights must and should, he wrote, sound like follies and sometimes like crimes when they are heard without permission by those who are not predisposed and predestined for them. Nietzsche was gravely concerned with ensuring the world would remain fertile for the growth of true human excellence. Thus, he wrote for the higher man alone, urging him to overcome the temptations of herd morality and instead to proceed on his own heroic life path, and in doing so provide inspiration for future generations of potential higher men. But Nietzsche was not optimistic that the future would be kind to the existence of higher humans. Herd morality is a powerful beast with the force of the majority behind it, and for the last 2 millennia has waged a common war on all that is rare, strange, privileged, the higher man, the higher soul, the higher duty, the higher responsibility, and the abundance of creative power and masterfulness. Herd morality underpins not only socialist ideologies, the proponents of which Nietzsche called socialist dolts and flatheads, who wish to bring about the degeneration and diminution of man into the perfect herd animal, but also the numerous social justice movements, which threaten to engulf the Western world with a new wave of herd morality. Given that herd morality is alive and well in the modern day, we can, with Nietzsche, pose a question he believed highly pertinent in his times, and which remains so in ours. Today, is greatness possible? But apart from the question as to whether true greatness is possible today, the fact that herd morality is alive and well must be a cause. For the slave, despite the innocent facade he displayed at times, and which remains so in ours, today, is greatness possible? But apart from the question as to whether true greatness is possible today, the fact that herd morality is alive and well must be a cause of concern from another angle. For the slave, despite the innocent facade he displays with his herd morality and calls for equality, does not desire to change the world for the better. Instead, driven by ressentiment and envy, he seeks to gain social and political power for the purpose of provoking destruction as compensation for his own personal impotencies and failures. The following insight of Nietzsche's proves
What
to
up,
be a
though,
pertinent
Charles?
warning for the modern
What's
world.
good?
When some men fail to accomplish what they desire to do, they exclaim angrily, "May the whole world perish." This repulsive emotion is the pinnacle of envy, whose implication is, if I cannot have something, no one can have anything. No one is to be anything.
Yep. And that shit, wow. I think I got like one more. What's good though? What's good? I'm gonna play one more. Like, I'm just getting up for work. I'm gonna play this, then I'm about to lay down. Long night dealing with these tigers. Dealing with the tigers.
Philosopher, cultural critic, composer, poet, and philologist, and whose work has had a profound influence on modern intellectual history. Nietzsche was one of the main precursors of existentialism, and he believed that there are no absolute rules for human life, no absolute values, no certainties on which to rely, and he famously said that God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. In other words, we have to live like there's nothing else beyond life. Nietzsche's philosophy is about reaffirming life, calling for a radical, naturalistic rethinking of the nature of human existence, knowledge, and morality. After the death of God, we need to take control of our own destiny by molding ourselves into something greater, into superhumans, the most English translation of the word Übermensch in German. In Nietzsche's view, the superhuman is not necessarily physically strong or super smart, but is psychologically superior. Superhumans are those free spirits who have mastery over their emotions, who take joy in simply existing, and who create above all else. As well as this, they're able to confront the dragon, which is a multicultural symbol representing the strength of the culture and values of a society. A free spirit, a superhuman, is the one who can defend the influence of the dragon, the one who can create their own values, breaking the chains of society and culture in which they were raised. In his book, Thus Spake Zarathustra, Nietzsche lays out 3 metamorphoses that the individual must go through to become superhuman. Using allegorical imagery, he describes the metamorphoses as the camel, the lion, and finally the child. Which is why in this video, we're going to explore these 3 metamorphoses to better understand how we can all become superhuman according to the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. Number 1. Camel Metamorphosis. Nietzsche says, "What is difficult?" asks the spirit that would bear much, and kneels down like a camel wanting to be well loaded. "What is most difficult, O heroes?" asks the spirit that would bear much, "that I may take it upon myself and exult in my strength." The camel is the first metamorphosis of the spirit. The camel represents a strong spirit, capable of taking heavy burdens and traveling long distances in lonely deserts, surviving a harsh life. Not many people can undertake this journey, and even fewer do. Usually, most prefer having a comfortable life without stress or hard work. By avoiding risk, they follow the standard template for living, the local societal rules and moral codes, and sometimes they break the rules when it's convenient for them, without having too much moral integrity. A camel, by contrast, is different. The camel takes societal rules and moral codes very seriously, trying to become a person of good moral values, a role model, a person of integrity and honor. In Nietzsche's allegory, the societal rules and moral codes are represented by a golden dragon. These rules and codes can be religious or humanistic values, or ideas like every man is created equal, care and empathy towards others, the right of everyone to have an opinion, condemning violence, taxing the rich, or, on a more mundane level, societal norms such as you're supposed to be polite, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get a real job, you're supposed to have children and start a family. In other words, a camel is what would be referred to today as good citizenship, or being a decent human being, a person who wants to take these most respected values extremely seriously and embodies them in all of their actions and words. It follows the deep roots of all the more general values driving society as a whole. So, to become a camel, you must know your dragon. The dragon represents everything that you admire and the values that have been implanted by your parents or by society as being good. But why would anyone undertake such a pursuit? Why would anyone follow the dragon? Well, the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, whose work was greatly influenced by Nietzsche, has an answer for this. The dragon is the superego, which is part of Freud's structural model of the psyche. Formed at about the age of 5, the dragon represents a personality component which makes us behave morally in life. It's where all the unwritten rules of what it means to be a good person are, all the moral values that our parents and society taught us. When we obey these rules, when we obey the dragon, we feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. And when we don't, we feel guilty and ashamed. A camel is an individual who goes to extremes, trying to follow and obey as much as possible the dragon, going on a path which it thinks leads to the highest rewards in terms of pride and accomplishments. Unfortunately, most people fail to reach the camel stage. They don't live up to their ideals. They don't have clear role models or a clear set of values in life. They follow the new trends in society, indulging themselves in comforting but meaningless life, empty of strong values. To differentiate yourself from the herd, to stop being a sheep following random shepherds, you have to start carrying true values in life. You have to follow your dragon. To discover your personal dragon, make 2 lists. A list of everything you consider good and bad in life, based on what your parents and society taught you, and a list of everyone you admire, leaders, artists, scientists, athletes, and so on. Then try to find a common ground between them. As an example, you may realize that you admire Nelson Mandela, and what you consider good is respecting human rights, great leadership, equality, diplomacy, confidence, and so on. In that case, to become a camel and to follow your dragon would mean for you to acquire deep knowledge of what good leadership means, human rights, and to learn to be a confident public speaker. Everyone has their own dragons, and so the camel metamorphosis is different for each of us. But the camel is not the end phase and has some limitations. Although it has faith in its capabilities, the camel doesn't question the values and obligations imposed upon it. It's a nice guy that doesn't ruffle feathers. The The camel only proves his strength and power by conforming to the subconscious rules he lives and thinks by. In other words, the camel is a great player in the Matrix, following the game's rules in an excellent way. Winning quest after quest in the Matrix, the camel explores experiences and learns, but ultimately it will always be a prisoner of that Matrix, no matter how successfully it plays the game. Some can live their entire lives as successful camels, living in this self-imposed jail. However, some camels can wake up and understand the meaninglessness of their lives, how meaningless it is to live according to somebody else's values. Thus, they can start their own transformation, becoming lions and breaking free from the Matrix.
Pothole, I worried we'd be stranded for hours.
And our lives would revolve around the pothole.
And breaking free from the Matrix. Number 2. Lion metamorphosis. Nietzsche asks us, who is the great dragon whom the spirit will no longer call Lord and God? Thou shalt is the name of the great dragon, but the spirit of the lion says, I will. If the camel follows its ideal, the lion tries to destroy this ideal. It confronts the dragon. For every thou shalt or you shall, the lion says no, standing against tradition and against any values that are imposed upon it. The lion destroys the things that the camel loves so much. But by destroying them, it destroys something inside itself. This can be a relationship that is oppressive or limits one's freedom, or leaving a particularly good job because it requires compromising one's integrity and life principles. Both the camel and the lion are reactions to ideal values, one positive and the other negative. The transformation of the camel into a lion is essential, otherwise the camel will be ruined by its own quest. Saying yes to everything, no matter how noble, will destroy the camel's spirit in the end. The same is true in our real lives. If we do everything for others, trying to be the best role model, and we don't do anything for ourselves, we will succumb and be crushed. Each of us is unique, and this uniqueness cannot be expressed if you just follow the voices of other people ordering you in your head, telling you what's good and what's bad. You need to find your own meaning, your own individual mission in life, independent of your environment. To break free and to create your own values and meaning in life, you have to undergo this transformation. You have to go through this rebellious phase, like the lion in its attempt to gain its freedom. In Nietzsche's allegory, the lion, finding himself alone in the desert, encounters the dragon. The dragon is seductive. It sparkles with golden scales, and on each scale glitters a thou shalt. The thousands of scales represents thousands of years of the thou shalts that have come before us, the centuries of codes of how you ought to think and act. There are layers upon layers of moral codes formed in the entire history of humanity. But the dragon is the enemy of true self-mastery. And the lion wants to engage the dragon in mortal combat, rebelling against any thou shalt, refusing any oppression. The lion is the person committed to their own freedom, committed to expressing their individuality in its fullest, and thou shalt is a barrier to achieving this. When confronted by the dragon, the lion says, I will. But the dragon replies that all values are already created, each one forming a part of its golden scales, and the lion doesn't need to create new values. In fact, it is forbidden. Ultimately, the dragon says, there shall be no more I will. This lion cannot take it. The lion must then fight the dragon to win its freedom. During the fight, the lion roars the sacred no, which means a rejection of all the values that came before the lion. When the lion rages the sacred no to every thou shalt, this is the start of its freedom. The lion represents self-consciousness, aware of its independent power. Nietzsche went through the lion phase when he started to fight those people who disapproved of his life choices, including his family. As a consequence, he became stateless, jobless, and godless. But he gained the power to start to live his life on his own terms. He talked about the lion metamorphosis from his own experience, being convinced that to become a real free spirit, he must fight against anyone who tries to limit his freedom. To be able to transform your camel into a lion, you need to have the courage to break the chains of tradition, of religion, of society. Perhaps you even have to break up with several people in your life. As an exercise, make a list of everything and everyone you think limits your freedom to be yourself. It can be an unfortunate unwritten rule at your workplace. It could be your spouse who always tries to control and correct your behavior. It may be your friends who criticize you when you behave in a particular way. Once you've done this, try to think of possible strategies of how to change that situation. Maybe you can make a case in the team meeting at work regarding the problems you're experiencing. Perhaps you could have a serious talk with your spouse in which you can discuss the issue, how it bothers you, and how you'd like it to change. Or you could find new friends who can appreciate you better. Lion metamorphosis doesn't need to be a violent and sudden reaction. It can be a smart, calm, but definitive one. The superhuman, Nietzsche believed, was a true individual, one who must build self-mastery on his or her own terms. However, while a lion can create freedom for itself, it is still not capable of creating new values. And here the final metamorphosis comes into play, the child metamorphosis. Number 3, child metamorphosis. To quote Nietzsche, "For the game of creation, my brothers, a sacred yes is needed. The spirit now wills his own will, and he who had been lost to the world now conquers his own." In the final metamorphosis, the spirit becomes the child, the creator. After complete destruction of imposed morals and values, comes the creation of new values, new beginnings. The child doesn't have any resentments. They forget the past to create a new present and a brighter future. The child continuously creates their own new values and lives by them. They will their own will and don't impose their values on anybody else. The child metamorphosis can be interpreted by Nietzsche's affinity for the philosophy of Heraclitus. Heraclitus imagined a universe where everything is in an eternal state of becoming, and that time is a child playing, continuously creating and destroying. Similarly, in Nietzsche's view, a free spirit, being a part of this nature, is like a child at play in a state of permanent creation. To become a complete person, a free spirit, and a superhuman, you need to get in touch with the child you were when you were playing. To love life beyond good and evil, creating your values and following your own rules of playing this game of life. The child phase is the phase of pure creativity, of being in a flow state, not having any restrictions regarding what's possible. For a child, everything is possible. They give a sacred yes to life. They're like a self-propelling wheel, full of innocence and forgetfulness, creating their own rules. After the lion uttered the sacred no, the child comes out to shout a sacred yes that affirms life. Nietzsche was saying that people who can become more childlike are the storm clouds on which the superhuman will thunder. The goal of life is to create, and ultimately, to create the superhuman. To reach the child phase, you should not seek external answers and approval. You need to find the joy of life within, not worrying about the societal traditions and moral codes. You need to be confident, affirmative, creative in a permanent state of flux, forever changing and developing.
With fee-free banking in a welcoming space. Part bank, part cafe, all in one place.
We're looking for adults 45 and under to be in our HPV vaccination
Oh my
ad.
fucking God.
Sound like you?
Not me.
Changing and developing. Don't fixate on a specific identity. You don't need to talk, behave, or dress in a certain way. You are the one who is choosing how to talk, behave, and act in the world, and you can change your decisions as you please. As an exercise, try to think of those activities in which you can experience the flow state. For example, when you lead a team in a critical project at work, time spent painting in the quietness of home, or times when you're engaging with people and you feel like time is flying, or when you're deep in your work, developing ideas and creating innovative solutions. After having a clear picture of how you behaved in those activities, try to think what you can do to get yourself more into those states. Maybe the answer would be to stop being so critical of yourself, to let go, to remove the people who don't let you reach these states by imposing too many rules. Stop taking life too seriously. Experiment more. Try new ways of behaving in the world and new ways to spend your time in order to reach the flow state. If you're able to go through all of the 3 metamorphoses, the camel embracing the greatest ideals which were created before you, then the lion gaining your freedom from these ideals, and finally the child creating your own ideals and your own unique meaning of life, then you can become a true free spirit and a superhuman. Being a superhuman is not only an individual phenomenon, but also a collective one. The more people become superhuman, tapping into their unlimited potential, the more the entire world will come alive and flourish. So, if you enjoyed this video, please do make sure to check out the full Philosophies for Life channel.
Yep, Philosophies for Life. And plus, I'm glad that he said that, because Bruce Lee, the dragon himself, he said the greatest superpower is controlling your emotions. Shout out to Bruce Lee. And shout out to everybody coming through late night workout, you know what I'm saying, mentally and physically. Shout out to Archangel, you know what I'm saying? And shouts out to Charles for coming through. Shouts out to Low Key. You already know what it is. Much love to my goddess Vonta. I know she gonna catch this when she get off of work. And I'll catch y'all in a minute. Tranquility Thursday. I might have a couple more and probably do an HHN. I might have to probably go to work. If it rains out, I'll be chilling all day. But if it really don't rain all day, I'll be at work. And I'll catch y'all when I get off. You know, as soon as I get off, it'll be Detroit After Dark. And then I'll have a whole day Friday to chill, because I'll be off. You already know what it is. It's almost 4:20. So you know what that means. About to get my smoke on. Then about to lay on down. Had a long night. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody coming through. Played a couple videos. We'll play some more later on when I wake up. Get fresh. And catch y'all in a minute. Peace.